Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be joined by Mia Mason, Rita, and Mary Beth. We're going to be talking about medical marijuana. I did want to, before we get started, just remind everyone that if you do have any questions for any of the panelists, you can feel free to post them in the comments or in the chat section and we'll address them. Before we get to introductions, I'd like to start off with a focusing activity to get everyone's mind in the right place for tonight's discussion. So go ahead and post your answers into the comments and chats about the following question, which is name one major benefit of marijuana or hemp. So while those answers are coming in, I'd like to go ahead and start off by introducing our guests. First off, my name is Lauren and I'll be your host tonight. Up first, we have Miss Mia Mason. She's running as the Congressional Democratic nominee for District 1. She's a 20-year veteran who served in the Army, Navy, and DC National Guard. She retired in 2018 to shift her focus on advocating to restore equity and equality back into our communities. And Mia definitely believes in the legalization of marijuana and hemp. We also have Rita joining us tonight, who has her PhD. She is a mother and a friend. Her passions are working on Facebook and growing a women's ministry with her church. She's an advocate for cannabis and all of its health benefits. And then I'll go ahead and toss it over to Mary Beth to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Beth Janzak, and I'm the office manager for Mary Jane Consults. We have 4 nurse practitioners that do medical cannabis certifications.
Excellent. That's great. So while those answers are coming in again from that question, which again was name one benefit of marijuana or hemp. Let's see if we have any answers coming in. I wanted to toss that question over to you guys to start off. So Mia, can you go ahead and kick us off by answering one of the major benefits of marijuana or hemp?
Well, one of the best things that we've seen in medical studies through our veterans is the reduction of harm to themselves by using medical marijuana to reduce the symptoms of their PTSD and TBI.
Absolutely, I do think that's a major benefit. Over to you, Rita.
Yes, thank you. I'm still very moved by the studies that show states that allow medical marijuana actually have continued reduction of opioid death rates, and that's been shown in studies over time that it actually continues to improve in the percentages. So that's my biggest is less deaths, more life. Absolutely.
You're right. I agree with that statement as well. Mary Beth, what do you think is a major benefit of marijuana or hemp?
Well, being the person that talks to every patient that calls our office, I get to hear the most amazing stories from so many people, how it's helped with their pain and how it's helped with their depression and how it's helped with just their PTSD and their nausea and all kinds of things. And my favorite thing is when a patient calls us later on and tells us that they've managed to stop taking 8 and 10 different medications because now they get to use cannabis. So the amount of medications that it can help patients replace with something that's a much healthier alternative is probably what I would say is one of the biggest benefits that I see.
You're right. I wanted to go ahead and kind of ask you guys a couple questions relating to policy surrounding cannabis, medical marijuana, and hemp. So the first question I have is, what can be done on a federal level to increase access to marijuana and hemp products? Mia, can you start us off?
Sure, by making sure that we take it off Schedule 1. I think that would honestly help us out in order for us to also decriminalize it. So simply just taking it off of Schedule 1 would help a lot of folks.
Absolutely. Rita, over to you.
Yes, I'll second that. And both that's, until that's really it.
Can you explain a little, I guess, to the viewers what Schedule 1 is? What does that mean?
Absolutely. The Schedule 1 seems so bizarre that it is listed along with drugs like heroin and LSD A Schedule 1 drug means there are zero benefits. And we know studies are not agreeing with that. So that's the really only thing they can do. And then until then, or even after that, it's up to the states, the states to do what we need to do statewide to make it. Yeah.
I agree. And it's definitely a difference in policy between state and federal, because obviously we have states that have some policies, and then, we're lacking a federal response. Mary Beth, what do you think about the issue of federal policy regarding increasing access to marijuana, hemp, cannabis, etc.?
I think that they need to do it sooner rather than later. The sooner they can do that, the better off, the more patients are going to be able to benefit from it.
I guess let me ask you a personal question, since you kind of work in, again, you said the office that kind of helps prescribe these patients. Have you seen an impact from COVID-19 on kind of the access to marijuana?
Well, the Governor Hogan did give us permission, for lack of a better term, to use telemedicine, which was huge for us to be able to do that. We were so excited to be able to see patients virtually and not have to have people come into the office, because so many people with anxiety were so scared to come out anyway. They didn't want to come to an office. So having the telemedicine option was wonderful. When COVID first hit, I really kind of thought that it was going to be a real big impact on us. And surprisingly, it was not. We still had the same amount, or a few more patients calling us each week to either renew or to get their certifications done the first time. So I was pleasantly surprised that COVID didn't seem to impact people wanting to get their cannabis cards.
That's great. Well, I'm glad that it had, no severe impact on you guys, and that you guys were able to switch over to a telemedicine platform so quickly. Mia, can you talk a little bit more about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the marijuana industry and access to marijuana?
Well, I think what she just answered said that it was still kind of continuous, but even like where I live, going to a cannabis store, going to a CBD store, and then having that access cut off, meant that people had to like rely on Uber and other things, or it just turned into a kind of a mess. So it became more of a contactless delivery, but is that even allowed? Those are some of the things that ran into legalities about things, and then telling customers that they had to come in once we went into phase 2 and now phase 3 to come pick up what they needed. That was some of the biggest things that folks had an issue with, was getting what they got a card for, what they were able to renew for, and then having access to that. So we need to be able to continue to make sure that you have telemedicine.
You're right, and I think it is important to point out that, a lot of people, even in District 1, don't quite have access to telemedicine because they're lacking, the technology, the resources to do so. So it's definitely also a privilege to be able to do telemedicine. I wanted to turn it over to Rita to kind of ask you, how do you think the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the marijuana industry?
So in our circle, and just so many of the professionals that I deal with, and also patients I speak to, we find that this is really proving to create a level, that there are studies that show cannabis does create a level of homeostasis in our bodies, that we know that when we are balanced, it will help against anything that's coming at us, whether it's stress, a virus, or even something that we deal with on a chronic basis. Having just a balance in our bodies helps fight off. I see it as impacting on a positive level, and encouraging or enhancing our wanting us to be well on a regular basis, on a daily basis, to combat the virus. With the people wearing masks, and there's so many visuals now that speak to us on a daily basis about kind of what's out there. Something's out there and we're fighting it, or we have to be careful, and it increases stress. And like Mia had mentioned with veterans, and not only veterans, but I mean, half the population, there's so many people that struggle with stress and PTSD and all kinds of those types of mental and health issues. So I think it's in a big picture bringing more health in the end, because people are inspired to stay healthy and stay balanced and continue medicating on a more regular basis. Where I know personally people in my life that are just more like a edible and RSO regimen versus like smoking and using medical marijuana as needed. So I see it as positive impact.
Yeah. And I have to mention that our Representative Harris also said that if you were smoking marijuana, you were more than likely to end up on opioids and to get COVID, which hasn't really been proven at all. He just wanted to make sure that he stood his ground in defense of his party platform to say that, marijuana should remain illegal and that the production of hemp should also be illegal. But what do our farmers need? They need both of those products in order to make money. So hopefully we can help the governor and our other state legislators by providing our opinions to help them, get more legalization so that everybody can also have that attainable license to grow their marijuana.
Absolutely, Mia. I think that leads into my next question, which is how can hemp help our farmers?
Well, it's a wonderful manufacturing process. I would love to be able to go into every product detail next week on, but it's something that, has a 6-week turnaround pretty much from, seed to growth. And then, you can cut it down, regrow it, and, it sucks up carbon, helps our environment get cleaner. And then it can be turned into tons of products, oils, plastics, and even fire coating. So, lend me a hand if I'm missing something. How about you, Mary?
I know nothing about the hemp growing process, so I would love to learn more about it.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll be covering that next week. Do you know anything about the hemp, Rita?
So with my personal relationships with farmers, there's actually one here in the chat I'm noticing, and I've seen the detriment of farmers currently losing their farms and homes due to current situations. And our country was founded on hemp. Our first 13-star flag was made of hemp, and I have so much hope that that we can be a benefit to farmers. With this coming forward, farmers can benefit and grow and flourish again in this country.
Yeah, because the poultry industry has left, the manufacturers have kind of left as well. And even today, seeing nearly frozen chickens going down the highway on Ocean's City Highway, it was kind of ridiculous to see that there was no life concern at all, but we know that they were getting slaughtered. But the thing is that they could have also grown hemp, and had a better profit margin than what they were currently doing. Because, like you said, a lot of farmers are losing their legacy business, where other families are coming in from overseas who were generational farmers are taking that American opportunity, if they can even get into our country, to take over the lands that have been, either picked up by them or sold to corporations and then resold to them so that they can have an opportunity here in America. And they're wondering, how did we make money on such a small profit margin? And this is why we need to be able to get hemp, produced here in America. And because we're right here situated on the Chesapeake Bay, we can also export the majority of this product as well.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good point, which is money. So that leads me into my next question, which is actually about the taxes on marijuana. Can you talk a little bit more about where they go or what they should go to?
Well, I believe in the little term that I like to call free use, which is basically making sure that it's federally recreational, and I'm sorry, we have federal decriminalization of it, we have recreational use of it, we have an economical stimulus of it so that it provides revenue to our state, and that some of that money goes into our educational system so that we can pay for Medicare, pay for UBI for the teachers and the farmers. So this is something that's honestly just going to be a circle that goes right back into the community.
Absolutely. Mary Beth, what do you think about, the taxes on marijuana and where those taxes should be going?
Again, not my area of expertise. I am good with. I like to say I stay in my lane. I love to learn new things. I want to learn about the taxes and ways that can be, funneled and used in the for the most good. And that would be great. Like I said, it's not my lane. I simply do the certifications and help people get through the MMCC website.
So speaking about the MMCC website and everything, how easy would you say it is to access, obtaining your medical marijuana card in 2020?
So in the last, I would say 30 or 60 days, there has been one change, which now if you have a VA medical card or your Medicaid card, you can apply and you don't have to pay the $50 fee for your card and for your application. So that's brand new.
Wow.
As far as submitting your application, the straightforward single patient is really not that difficult, but you do have to be able to upload pictures of things. And a lot of our patients are older patients who are technologically challenged. They don't know how to do that. And some of them can't even text a picture to me. So those people I end up meeting somewhere to help them get their applications in. But I would have to say for the majority of people, they don't have too much trouble accessing the website and getting their application submitted.
So what laws do you think would be beneficial to kind of increasing access for those patients and making the process a little bit easier?
I know that there are some things as far as the application process goes that are just a little cumbersome. When there's some address verification things that are a little cumbersome if you don't have your mailing address on your photo ID. And then, of course, the applications for minors and their caregivers is really big, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done in order for a parent or guardian to be a caregiver for a minor patient.
Absolutely. Rita, I wanted to go ahead and ask you the same question. Where do you think the taxes from medical marijuana should go?
So definitely back into the communities, back into programs for education. I mean, whatever the education systems aren't able to pay for, I know personally stories over and over again, teachers pay so much for their classrooms and all that. So just back into our community, back into the youth, the children that are coming up after us. Who are we preparing for? What are our youth going to have? I think back into the life, that's coming up. Education is just really big. Jobs. Everyone's not young. There's a lot of older people that are getting out of being incarcerated, changing their life around, addictions, being healed, and now they're looking for consistent and great work. They're great workers. They're changing their life, and jobs and employment is another thing we can provide in probably so many ways.
I think you also did touch on a good point about how marijuana policy can also disproportionately affect minority communities and people of color. Mia, can you talk a little bit more about some policies that would be able to alleviate and just reestablish equity?
Well, I think some of the strongest things that we can do is actually when our AG gets replaced, working to get that Schedule 1 fixed. And then, of course, getting all of our state AGs to help vacate and expunge all of the criminal records for possession, especially for those who are nonviolent. And for those that, understand that, look, I was just using this for myself. It wasn't going anywhere else. There's no harm. Let's make sure that they're able to have their rights restored. So that decriminalization part goes into so much. But, and then of course, one of the things that we want to provide our opinion to the state legislators is to make sure that that revenue that we've just talked about actually gets back into the districts where that money came from, so that help is given. So if you're out on the Eastern Shore, it's divided equally and not, just because there's more taxes coming from Montgomery County and Howard County, it goes back into that community to make them better, but it gets shared with the entire state so everybody gets an equal dollar amount. I think that would be really helpful to our community, because it's going to provide everybody a level platform to restore that equity for all that we really want, especially when we're teaching our kids to make sure that they're at a life standstill with this new online learning that they're having such a challenging for. Most people don't even try online learning until they're in college, and then now we're trying to make 5-year-olds do it. It just doesn't work. And just like you said, Mary, that so many people and above 60 probably, still remember the VCR, cassette tape, and, LP, but you put me in front of a computer or my phone, nothing's going to work. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me magnify this. But still, it's going to help everyone. That's what we have to be able to do, and to get it decriminalized would really help.
I think you're absolutely right. In addition to that, what other policies still need to be made in regards to medical marijuana, cannabis, hemp, in order to kind of just spread the benefits that we've talked about in our prior conversations? I guess, Rita, did you want to go ahead and start us off?
Sure. So,
like, for an example, recently, it used to be a law that if you had your medical marijuana card, you could not possess a firearm. However, that has been changed.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of laws like that around medical marijuana, where there's kind of just restrictions on the people who use it, maybe.
Right. Yeah, and it's lack of knowledge and awareness. I mean, people with opiates go and get their, it's other kinds of altering. And right, yeah. So, and that's interesting that you say that, because that was something that, as a single mother, I had thought about quite a bit. Is, well, if I'm a patient, then I can't have a firearm to protect myself. And I mean, that's a big thought for some people, especially if you've already got one, and that's your protection, and that's kind of what you do. But yeah, that goes all around too. There's so many others that will be coming through of similar policies that are balancing out, I think, as we learn more and as we're able to see more of the benefits. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mary Beth, what do you think about it? Are there any other policies that you can think of that would kind of just benefit everybody, patients, providers, growers, etc.?
Oh, like Rita said, with the firearms question, I get that a lot from people who are thinking about applying for their card, and most of them will not apply for their card because they want to purchase and own their firearms. So that's definitely a sticking point for a lot of people. The other thing that I know always seems strange to me is when you apply, you have to tick one of the boxes that says, that you are not in law enforcement, correction, firefighter, or paramedic. And when I called the MMCC and said, what is the reason for this question? They told me that it was because if you have a job where you have to carry a firearm, you are not eligible for your card. And I said, the last time I checked, firefighters and paramedics don't carry guns. So why are they on there? And they didn't have an answer for that. But all of those people, the police, the firefighters, the paramedics, the PTSD and the sleep issues with them are parallel to the military. They have the same situations, the same problems, but yet, like one of the other panelists said, they can They can have a prescription for opioids and go to work, but they can't have some cannabis to go to sleep before they have to get up and go to their next shift. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not even sure that if it was federally decriminalized or anything else, I'm not even sure that at that point the fire departments and the police departments would even allow it at that point. But that's a whole nother hurdle for later on. Going back one step about one of the other things you had spoken about hurdles, hospice patients have a really hard time sometimes accessing. They used to have a hard time accessing their card, their application process, things like that. It is nice that the MMCC will at least expedite their applications, but they don't expedite the caregiver applications. So it's kind of a. So when I have patients who are applying for that, I always tell the caregivers, call, first thing tomorrow morning, call and tell them that you're the caregiver for this hospice patient and that you need your application to be pushed through with theirs. Because to have the hospice patient be able to access cannabis, but they really can't because they can't get out of the house to go get it. So that's always a bit of a challenge. And prior to COVID, we actually had to physically see a hospice patient in person in order to certify them for using cannabis. And this was something that I've also talked to the MMCC about many times, is to be a hospice patient, you have to have 2 medical providers certify you to start with. So why do you need a third one to go out to say that you are a hospice patient? Not only that, but hospice patients can't necessarily come to the office for an appointment, but you have to have a face-to-face appointment with them to certify them. So that would mean that our providers would go out to the patient's home to certify them. And Jackie Jones, the nurse practitioner that started Mary Jane Consult, hospice is very much her heart. And so she has always done all hospice patients just gratis. She will not charge them a penny for their certifications, even though she will go out and spend, an hour and a half just talking to these people. And trying to help them be able to access cannabis, and we try to give them all the resources about delivery services and things like that as well. So hospice is definitely another subset that has some extra hurdles to go over.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for that enlightening part, especially about the firefighters and the paramedics that, they can't get their cannabis card. And it's baffling. Maybe somebody who has like a 9-to-5 job, maybe a dental tech can get it, but if they suddenly apply to be a paramedic, there goes their medical card. I think
it also affects the volunteer firefighters and paramedics in Harford County, and I know Harford County and Baltimore County still have a pretty active volunteer fire department, and it also has the same effect there. So it eliminates some volunteers or some people who could really use the cannabis from being able to volunteer if they choose their own mental health over being able to volunteer.
Well, I'm pretty sure the police chief and the fire chief and all the other ones who have the regular 9-to-5 job, who are the policymakers, can be like, look, after the week I went through, I probably need something different. But we need to be able to talk about, our harm reduction programs as well, and get those kind of incorporated. So if they want to make laws and we have to work on the other side of the aisle, say, hey, look, now you have a place to go use your marijuana. You'll get it prescribed by a caregiver, somebody who actually makes sure that you, quote, don't OD. I just really, please, come on. You as a paramedic and firefighter probably will not OD on this at all. Okay. But, like Daniel said here in the chat, he's been smoking marijuana for over 20 years and never had any medical conditions or issues with it. And one of the best things that he said is that it was legal where he lives in Massachusetts, and it hasn't been a problem at all. So we have examples in other states like California, not California, but Colorado. It'd be nice if California would do the same things that we can do, but hey, look, they're sometimes way ahead of us, like when it comes to climate change. But I think one of the biggest things that we can help a lot of small businesses do is make sure that we don't turn into like a big corporate Marlboro, Camel, or corporation that is out there to just dominate everything and become a monopoly like Facebook, Apple, Netflix or Google in the marijuana and hemp industry. Because, one of the things that we have to be able to make sure that our customers get is a good product. There's so many different potencies, so many different buds available. What's the quality control on these products? Especially when it even comes down to CBD, what's actually in it? And how can we make sure that it's safe for the consumer once they get their card, and they need to be educated before they show up and trust a budrista, I think that's the correct term, and before making their selection or purchase. So am I on the right track at all with this? Do you think I'm doing a good job if we introduce these policies into the House and try to get this to help the marijuana and hemp industry at all? What can I do better? I'll let you go first, Rita.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, this is everything you're saying. It's just so spot on. There's got to be third party testing. There's got to be another, overseer to come in to be outside. And I think right now there's only one required for the state of Maryland. I don't know much about many other states, but I know Maryland, all the dispensaries have a third party testing that they've got to go through. CBD, that's based on the company. Like, there are companies that you can go purchase CBD that don't do any testing, and then there's CBD you can go purchase that's had the gamut of testing, and you know exactly where the farm is. So you just got to know what to look for. But the having more regulations and policies that actually take care of the people, take care of what we have access to, is valuable and important, because everyone doesn't do the research. And, when we go to get groceries, we expect what's on the package to be what's in the package. And this is the same kind of thing that we're coming to, and patients and customers, they want to know that what it says is what they're getting, and that it's going to benefit them, because there's all different potencies as well. And then there's all different terpenes. And it's a science. It's a science. It truly is. And yeah, there's how we're already being taken care of with what the MMCC is doing and everything that y'all are already. It's like, as soon as an issue arises, something will come up to address it, and it's beautiful. And I think that continuing on listening to what people are saying and what the dispensaries are dealing with, it matters, and you're doing that, and I think that's beautiful. And I'm super blessed and favored to be on this panel with you, to just be in this. I'm just so blessed. I'm grateful to have continued our relationship and knowing you over these years. And I trust that you're doing everything you can every single day. I don't think I see you ever not in your heart, in this, and it's beautiful. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mary, would you like to add anything to this?
I don't know that I can. Wait, did I make myself? Okay. I don't think I can add anything to this. This is the first time I've met any of you ladies, and I feel the same way. I am appreciative of the opportunity to sit here and listen to you ladies and learn from you ladies. And if there's any little bit that I may be able to contribute, I would love to be able to do that as well. It's kind of a boots on the ground kind of a thing, and I want to help and advocate in whatever way I can. I do it daily for our patients, and anything more I can do, I will absolutely do. And I know that the patients will appreciate anything that we can do for them, and I'm pretty sure they would be more than happy to try to help get some changes done as well.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a wonderful pleasure to have you both here. Rita, I've known you for several years. Mary, pleasure to meet you. And, to offer an opportunity, next week we're going to be here pretty much probably the same time, and to bump it up early today. But one of the nice things is we're going to be talking about marijuana and its sober cousin, hemp. to see what type of products we can make. I know there's millions, but if we had to make like a top 10, talk about each one for about 3 to 5 minutes, I think we can do that. So if anybody, including the public out there, wants to be able to join us, if you're rewatching this, go to miadmason.us, type in a message to us. We'll forward it to Lauren if you want to join our panel next week to talk about the products. But other than that, how can we reach out to you? Social media or website? Mary or Rita?
Oh, yes. So I am on Facebook, and you can reach out to me as I'm listed as Rita Lynn. And I am on every pretty much platform, Instagram and LinkedIn, Twitter, as Rita Lynn. And I would love for you to reach out and send me a message. I love connecting with people and the community, and yeah, anything that I can add or help along the way and guide, I'm here to serve. Yes.
So you can teach our public about this, the benefits of this and the policies as well. And Mary, how about you?
We have Facebook, we have website, Instagram. It's Mary Jane Consults, but it's spelled with an I. So it's MARIJANE Consults. And I am available to answer any questions as far as your application process goes, or qualifying conditions, or how to get an appointment, or how to just how to navigate the MMCC's website to get your application in.
Wonderful. Well, Lauren, how about you?
You can reach me at lauren@miadmason.us. You can reach out to me for any opportunity, speaking opportunity with Mia, or to kind of talk a little bit more about what we've talked about tonight. And with that, do you have anything else to say, Mia?
No, I think we're good. So if you found anything that you liked interesting about us and you want to know more about our policy, go to miadmason.us. And of course, we're looking for volunteers, staff positions, and all types of things. Our election is not done. We're winning this hands down. We're going to get rid of a nasty Republican in office, but we can't do it without your support or donations. So come to miadmason.com/donate. It's on the bottom of your screen for those who are watching this via the stream, so that we can continue to make sure that we represent the communities versus a guy who simply says no and that women should pay more for a lot. So let's get that change happening now by making sure that you get your vote in, vote early, vote proud, have the courage to show up for early voting and election day coming up October 26th to November 2nd, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily at wonderful locations near you if you can find them via your state board of elections. And with that, everybody, thank you for coming in and joining us, and have a great night. Bye.
Thank you.